Good morning. Welcome to All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, a liberal faith tradition in Braintree, Massachusetts since 1833. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of all persons as we engage in an ongoing search for truth and meaning. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are in life's journey, and however you inhabit your body, you are welcomed into the life of this beloved community. My name is Joe Maloney, and it is my pleasure to be your service associate this morning. If you are visiting us for the first time or would like us to reach out to you, please click on the link provided in the chat to submit a connection card so we may follow up with you. Everyone will remain muted during the service unless you wish to participate in the sharing of joys and concerns. Our services are recorded, except for our shared joys and concerns, and posted on our YouTube channel weekly. If you would like to activate Zoom's closed caption feature during the service, click the CC icon at the bottom of your screen and select Live Transcript. After the service, everyone is invited to stay online to attend our virtual coffee hour. Our guest minister today is the Reverend Richard Gilbert. Reverend Gilbert is a born Universalist who's been in the UU ministry for 60 years. Now retired and living in Rochester, New York, he is active in social justice issues, especially reproductive justice, medical aid in dying, and human rights. Reverend Richard served congregations in Cleveland, Ithaca, Golden, Colorado, and First Unitarian Church of Rochester for 32 years. Among his books are The Prophetic Imperative, Social Gospel in Theory and Practice, How Much Do We Deserve? An Inquiry in Distributive Justice, the Building Your Own Theology series, and 2 books of meditation, In the Holy Quiet and Thanks Be for These. Reverend Richard holds honorary degrees from St. Lawrence University, Starr King School for the Ministry, and Meadville Lombard Theological School. Please welcome Reverend Richard Gilbert. Now for our chalice words. Our chalice words are by Reverend Gilbert. We light this chalice to remember that we come from a single source. We light this chalice to remember that we share a common destiny. The flame burns with the light of reason, intuition, and truth. The flame burns with the warmth of human community and compassion. The flame is fed by the holy oil of healing and helpfulness. We light this chalice in thanksgiving for the meaning of this moment for all who have gathered here to worship. We are people of the flaming chalice. Now for our chalice song.
We kindle this light in celebration for the life that we share. We kindle this light in celebration for the life that we share.
Now for our earth candle. We light this green candle to affirm our commitment to care for the planet that is our home.
I'm delighted to be with you this morning, even virtually. Zoom seems to be the tie that binds. Our call to celebration is from the Reverend Gordon McKeeman, longtime friend and colleague, the late Gordon McKeeman. We summon ourselves from the demands and delights of the daily round, from the dirty dishes and unwaxed floors, from unshoveled walks and snow-drifted driveways, from all incompleteness and not yet startedness, from the holy and the unresolved. We summon ourselves to attend to our vision of peace and justice, of cleanliness and health, of delight and devotion, of the lovely and the holy, of who we are and what we can do. We summon the power of tradition and the exhilaration of newness, the wisdom of the ages and the knowing of the very young. We summon beauty, eloquence, poetry, music to be the bearers of our dreams. We would open our eyes, our ears, our minds our hearts to the amplest dimensions of life. We rejoice in manifold promises and possibilities. Our opening hymn, Now We Give Thanks.
Now it is time for the sharing of joys and concerns. Each week, we take time to share our important joys and concerns, so all of us might join in the celebration and help carry the burden. We begin our time of sharing by lighting a candle of joy and a candle of concern. If you wish to share an important sorrow or joy from your heart, I invite you to unmute your mic, tell us your name, and briefly share, or you may enter it in the chat where it will be read aloud for you. If anyone would like to share, now I open the time. Okay, for all those joys and concerns that were left unspoken, will you please drop one final stone and thank you, Mary.
I invite you now to get settled in wherever you are sitting in your homes. Take a deep breath, relax, and consider these words of meditation, which I've entitled Pandemic Fever, an Antidote. There is something difficult about this particular time, in this particular climate, in this particular point of history. I feel it in myself. I sense it in those about me. I am just a little more impatient than usual. I am more often on edge. My spiritual resources feel depleted. I have pandemic fever. Partly it is the weather, partly it is the state of politics, partly it is nature that speaks back to us. Partly it is a pandemic that seems to have no end. We grow tired with the work we have to do and see no end to it. There are the tensions of an endless political mean season. Politicians pander, citizens protest, people are angry. There is malaise in the land. What to do? Enjoy the spectacle of sun and snow reflecting a quiet winter day. Read a good book. Talk with your legislators. Work on saving the world. Come to church, even if virtually. Remember, you can't save the world in a day. Be a little more patient with one another. Pandemic fever too will pass away. Amen, and so be it.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Our responsive reading this morning is from one of my friends and colleagues, the Reverend Lindy Ramsden, in the form of a responsive reading. It's called Beatitudes for Justice Builders. Blessed are you who can question your own assumptions and listen with an open mind.
You will receive new insights beyond your imagining.
Blessed are you who suffer the attacks of others to stand up for what is right.
You will not be alone. Your courage will inspire others to rise.
Blessed are you who build friendships as well as justice.
Even when you lose an issue, you will have strengthened the foundation of your community.
Blessed are you who do not demonize your opponents.
You will not be bored in meetings.
Blessed are you who work in coalition rather than in principled isolation.
You will create waves in the inertia of privilege and will know the thrill of riding the surf of change.
Blessed are you who will not let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
You will inspire curiosity and hope in others.
Blessed are you who take delight in people.
Guys, I'm sorry. It appears there's a difference between what's in what
There
you're
is.
reading, Reverend Gilbert, and what's on the screen. I didn't realize that ahead of time. So I apologize that there's that issue. I'm not sure how to get around it.
Maybe Reverend Gill, if you just wouldn't mind continuing.
Why don't I just read from the screen? Blessed are you who lead with enthusiasm and confidence, resisting the temptation to shame the apathetic or self-absorbed.
You will inspire curiosity and hope in others.
Blessed are you who play as well as work.
You will have more fun, build more energy, and will draw the powers of the impish to your cause.
Blessed are you who ask for help in your role as leaders.
You will find teachers at every turn, and your work will remain interesting and alive.
Blessed are you who, when wrongly attacked, find safe outlets for your righteous rage.
Your mind will be clear, your decisions strategic, and your progress will not be derailed by the backlash of the fearful.
Blessed are you who do not demonize your opponents.
Your eyes and your hearts will be open.
Blessed are you who sing and dance.
You will find energy and joy to lift you on your journey.
Blessed are you who offer thanks and praise fivefold for every critique.
Your children will want to visit after they are grown. People will want to serve on your committees, and friends will be interested in your opinions.
Blessed are you who study the rhythms of history.
You will have knowledge with which to shape the future.
Blessed are you who work in coalition rather than in principled isolation.
You will meet great people, learn things you didn't realize you needed to know, and have partners for the journey when you are in the lead or in need.
Blessed are you who volunteer to be secretary and take good minutes.
Your words will become history, and your efforts will move steadily forward rather than running absent-mindedly over thoroughly discussed ground.
Blessed are you who discover, train, and encourage young leaders.
You will see your work expand and grow beyond your own time and talent.
Blessed are you who can change your mind.
You are still alive.
Blessed are you who will not let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
You will see progress in your lifetime.
Blessed are you with an active spiritual life.
You will find perspective and comfort in times of loss and betrayal. Will rise without cynicism to meet the challenges of a new day.
Blessed are you who live from a place of gratitude.
For you will know the meaning of life. Now for our offering. Each week we have an opportunity to give thanks for the blessings we have received in our lives and in the life of our church community. Our offering is a chance to give back in support of the work and outreach of our church. To submit your offering electronically, you may follow the link in the chat. You may send it by mail to All Souls Church at the mailing address posted in the chat. At this time, our offering will be given and received.
On the afternoon of January 6, 2021, I decided to witness the Electoral College vote by which Joe Biden would be declared 46th President of the United States. Frankly, my intention was to tune in briefly on this ritual and then go about my day. I expected it to be boring. What followed riveted my attention for the next several hours, and I'm sure yours too. And I was stunned by what unfolded. I have not been as discouraged about the American experiment in democracy since November of 2016. My depression sent me to pondering. I remember the words of Theodore Parker, Unitarian preacher of the 19th century, from his sermon of 1853. His oft-used image of the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. It is an image that was often invoked by Martin Luther King Jr. and by Barack Obama. We Unitarian Universalists cherish these words, and what self-respecting UU minister has not preached upon them? But does the moral arc of the universe bend toward justice? We are an optimistic lot. Were we not assured by that 19th century Unitarian preacher James Freeman Clarke of the progress of mankind onward and upward forever? Since then, we've had 2 world wars, a depression, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, Donald Trump, domestic terrorism, and a surging pandemic. Despite my admiration for Parker and King, I fear those words may well give us false confidence that despite everything, all will be well, as if there were some sort of historical guarantee. And was it not true that the election of Donald Trump stiffened the moral and political spine of many heretofore inactive citizens? Newton's third law of thermodynamics applies here politically. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Thank heaven. Unfortunately, that will not be enough. Not even with a benign Joe Biden in the Oval Office is the beloved community guaranteed. There are no cosmic lifeguards. The damage done by a faltering response to global climate change, toleration of white supremacy, ignoring economic inequality, resorting to ethnic and homophobic hate baiting, denigrating and reducing the rights of women, allowing a pandemic to course through our nation and the world. All this may well be irreparable. Whatever became of the common good, the sense that we are all in this together. One worries about the body politic, this great American experiment in democracy. Even now, Freedom House notes our declining rank among the nations in a democratic index. We are now below Argentina and Mongolia, according to Freedom House. A majority of our youth believe democracy is either in trouble or failed. Over 158 million of us voted in the last election, 81 million for Joe Biden. However, an incredible 21 million people still think the election was stolen. The so-called big lie. 90 million of us are still unvaccinated, even though the unvaccinated are overrepresented in ICU wards. Most say they will never be vaccinated. It is like lemmings plunging into the sea. In one way, I agree with Trump. American elections, in a sense, are rigged. The Electoral College gives disproportionate weight to rural America and small states. Likewise, the Senate. Gerrymandering abounds. And while we must live with it for the time being, we must move to a truly one person, one vote democracy. Our founders were brilliant, but not omniscient. I recall a question put to one prototypical citizen. Is our nation's problem ignorance or apathy? To which he replied, I don't know, and I don't care. Poet Arthur Guiterman wrote, providence that watches over children's, drunkards, and fools with silent miracles and other esoterica. Continue to suspend the ordinary rules and take care of the United States of America. American exceptionalism and a blind faith in manifest destiny are bending the arc the wrong way. The moral arc of the universe is getting harder and harder to bend, and surely justice is not automatic. Democracy is under siege. Our plight and our hope is aptly summed up in the words of a 19th century observer who used a maritime metaphor. All monarchy is a merchantman, which sails well, but will sometimes strike on a rock and go to the bottom. While a republic, meaning democracy, is a raft which would never sink, but then your feet are always in water. And the water is deep and turbulent. As Election Day 2022 approaches, I am reminded of some other words from Theodore Parker, who once defined America as being of, by, and for the people. A felicitous phrase picked up by a lawyer friend who shared it with Abraham Lincoln, who made even better use of it. You may also have heard the words of the fifth principle of the Unitarian Universalist Association, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. For us, democracy, the participation of people in the decisions that affect their lives, is a spiritual value. It is here that we separate those who pretend play democracy from those who experience and practice democracy. As a spiritual value, how can we learn to live together in a just, verdant, and peaceful world unless we involve ourselves in public life? Voting is not the only way we participate in a democratic society, but as November 2022 approaches, it is increasingly coming into focus, perhaps prematurely. For electoral politics is now a full-time endeavor. I know this every day as I open my mailbox and find a continuing round of funding requests from politicians. Voting, exercising our freedom, expressing our ethical values, seeking some approximation of justice, is for me a religious responsibility. It is crucial that in the next few months, religious progressives vote responsibly for the common good and urge our fellow religionists and others to do the same. But democracy as a spiritual value, but isn't that absurd on its face? Plato described democracy as a charming form of government, full of variety and disorder. He changed that skepticism into cynicism by suggesting that one of the penalties of not participating in politics is that you will be governed by your inferiors. And D.H. Lawrence wrote, "I do not believe in democracy, but I am perfectly willing to admit that it provides the only really amusing form of government ever endured by man." And E.B. White said, "Democracy is the recurrent suspicion that more than half the people are right more than half of the time. It is the feeling of privacy in the voting booths, the feeling of communion in the libraries, the feeling of vitality everywhere. Democracy is a letter to the editor. Democracy is the score at the beginning of the ninth." So, How do we reverse our dangerous course and live out our fifth principle? Surely not by a false confidence that progress is inevitable. Of course, the most obvious way is political. We Unitarian Universalists have always been up to our steeples in politics, applying our faith through society, prophetic witness, speaking truth to power. We know that democracy is not a spectator sport. Every 4 years during my parish ministry, I launched a Morals Behind the Headlines sermon series, seeking to drop the plumb line of the Hebrew prophet Amos over political reality. I've delivered many election sermons, following a Massachusetts tradition that existed from the colonial period until 1884. As historian Conrad Wright observed, in the decades prior to the Revolution, the preachers gave instruction to the political theory of John Locke and thereby prepared public opinion for revolt. I won't go quite that far this morning. But we do seem to be climbing up the down escalator. We Unitarian Universalists cherish reason in religion, and reason in politics as well. We are spiritually challenged today by the outbursts of anger in the body politic. Reason in religion has been eclipsed by emotion. People tend to react by their guts, not their brains, and this bewilders us. In vast parts of our nation, the Enlightenment is dead, as many people believe in the virgin birth as an evolution. Truth has become not what we know for sure, but what can be negotiated or simply proclaimed without regard to facts. There is a war on science, as millions deny global warming and our human role in it. They deny what the scientists tell us about vaccines and masks and distancing. Truth seems to be wrapped in a fog of false news and alternative facts. My quarterbacking idol, Aaron Rodgers, thinks he knows more about science than scientists. So does tennis star Novak Djokovic, now sequestered in an Australian hotel room. And these guys are role models. Compassion appears to be out of vogue. Some states refuse to accept Obamacare for their needy citizens. It was saved from total repeal by the late Senator John McCain in his famous thumbs down gesture. Evidently, building back better human infrastructure is just too expensive, while the $768 billion Pentagon bill passed with overwhelming bipartisan support. And that was more than the Pentagon requested and $24 billion more than Joe Biden requested. I must have blinked during the debate because I missed it. Both parties have forgotten that the budget is a moral document. The moral arc bends backwards. How might our belief in compassion, justice, and equity play out in the real world? May Day, 2017. I was in Albany for Interfaith Impact's annual Advocacy Day. While I was discussing healthcare with a staff member in Assemblyman Andy Goodell's anteroom, he walked in, overheard our conversation, and invited me into his office. We debated healthcare. He from an individualistic point of view, with less government, more personal responsibility, and private competition. He didn't want to subsidize someone else. I advocated a government-based system in which all would contribute and all would benefit. My theological point was solidarity and ethical universalism. We are individuals, but we are also members of a community, of one community, and to contribute to the good of the whole, even if it is not to our personal benefit. It is one of my contributions to the community. My understanding of Unitarian Universalism leads me to work for the common good. I spoke for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Those words may be familiar to you as one of our principles, our seventh. People who think they were self-made forget how dependent they were on the community. Wealthy business executives, for example, ship goods to market on roads built by taxpayers. We citizens paid for the education of their workers. Police and fire protection are supported by all of us. Those who refuse vaccines practice a narrow freedom from "you can't make me," a freedom from, not a freedom for. But not only are they most likely to be infected, but may infect others. Unless we place the common good above our stubborn selfishness, we will all suffer the consequences. As poet Maya Angelou put it, no one can make it out here alone. We are interdependent. Our ethic requires a long horizon. And so the long moral arc of the universe does not inexorably bend toward justice. No amount of rhetorical optimism will be enough. Optimism suggests that justice is inevitable. Hope knows that justice must be earned. It will take the persistent efforts of those who realize that that is the source of hope. What should we do? Our late troubadour minister, Rick Maston, wrote and sang a song, "Stand up in the boat and sing a song because we're going over the falls." Well, I don't think we're going over the falls, though we are on a precarious journey on a dangerous river. I was in Selma in 1965 supporting Martin Luther King Jr.'s voting rights campaign and was tear-eyed when Lyndon Johnson signed that law into existence. Then the Supreme Court gutted the law, encouraging many states to make voting more difficult for minorities and the poor. We see that pattern among us every day. Despite gloomy predictions, I still work for the John Lewis voting rights bill and for the people voting reforms. In 1969, I worked with the Clergy Consultation Service on problem pregnancies in Ithaca, New York, counseling women when it was still illegal and advocating for reform, which we got in New York State in 1970. I was part of a coalition which helped pass New York's Women's Reproductive Health Act in 2021, embedding Roe v. Wade in our state's law. Now that action seems quite prophetic because the court seems ready to repeal Roe v. Wade. I weighed in again at a pro-choice rally at Martin Luther King Jr. Park in downtown Rochester, along with a state assemblywoman who grew up in the First Unitarian Church of Rochester Church School, and I was proud. I may still be tilting at wind turbines, but I look for these signals as we will survive so that we can survive the anger and injustice around us. The Chinese ideogram for crisis is a two-part symbol, danger and opportunity. We have both in spades. We have spiritual as well as social and political work to do. As poet Clarissa Pinkola Estes said, we were made for times like these. You see, I agree with the cartoon figure in sackcloth and ashes carrying a sign down the street which reads, "The world is not coming to an end. Therefore, we must suffer along and learn to cope. So must we. There are always signals of hope which keep me going. In 1970, Assemblyman George M. Michaels of Auburn changed his vote at the last minute to pass abortion legislation in New York State. He voted his conscience, but lost his re-election bid in his conservative upstate district. A true profile in political courage. In our age, we have Gretchen Thunberg, a young Swedish environmentalist who has triggered a worldwide movement against global climate change with a lonely vigil in her schoolyard. We have the example of the late Bishop Desmond Tutu, whom I had the privilege of meeting one evening here in Rochester. As we shook hands, I noticed how soft they were, but how strong was his heart. What about us? During a stint of phone banking during the 2016 election, I picked up a sticker with a picture of Susan B. Anthony over the words, "I voted today because of her." I plan to give it to my granddaughter to mark the election of the first woman president. A not so funny thing happened on the way to that dream. And I learned that democracy is messy, a work in progress. There is an historical hint of hope in the story from the first White House protests for women's suffrage 100 years ago. As the 19th Amendment was being approved state by state, it came down to the volunteer state, Tennessee. The deciding vote was cast by a 24-year-old state senator who was known for his opposition. Just before that vote, he received a telegram from his mother, and he changed his mind and his vote to vote for the 19th Amendment. The rest is history. History which is ours not to observe, but to create. Blessed are the justice builders. Well, does the moral arc of the universe bend toward justice? It is not automatic. It is we who must do the bending, and it is hard work. In the words of the old Russian proverb, we need to pray to God, but row for the shore. I'm not sure how much help prayer will be to us now, but I do know for certain that we must all row for the shore. Amen. Our closing hymn, "We Are Building a New Way."
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We can feed our every need. Every need. We can feed our every need. Every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, our We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way, a new way, a new way, a new
Our closing words are excerpted from The Low Road by Marge Piercy. One person can have faith, but it can be lonely. Two people make a dyad, one to talk, one to listen. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With four, you can play bridge and start an organization. With six, you can rent a whole house, eat pie for dinner with no seconds, and hold a fundraising party. A dozen make a demonstration. 100 fill a hall and make a worship service. 1,000 have a house of worship and their own newsletter. It goes on one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again after they said it couldn't be done. It starts when you say we, and you know who you mean. And each day you mean one more. And now as we prepare to extinguish our chalice, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Amen. And so be it. Blessed be.
We'd like to give special thanks to the participants in our service. For our virtual usher, Mary Mitchell, for our Zoom host, Alicia Jaromin, for our musicians, Jacob Clapper, Judy Cobble, the All Souls Choir, the virtual choir of Unitarian Universalist Society of Grafton and Upton, and to our guest minister, Reverend Richard Gilbert. Now for announcements and events at All Souls. On Tuesday, our first Connection Circle of the week will take place at 4 o'clock. Note, this is a new day and time. Originally, the Connection Circle was on Mondays, but now for this, starting this month, they've switched to Tuesdays at 4 o'clock. Our second Connection Circle is this coming Friday at 10 o'clock, and the topic will be a human interest story. This coming Tuesday at 7:15, the Social Action and Environmental Committee will be meeting. And a week from tomorrow, the Board of Trustees will be meeting at 6:30. Also, please remember the textile recycling box out in the church parking lot. We are paid by the weight for all the textiles that are put into it. Items must be bagged, not put in loose. For more information, you can please check the church website. And if you have any questions, you can please kindly contact the church office. Thank you. Are there any other additional announcements? All right. Then Ross, do you have anything to say to close us out?
No, I do not. Just be looking for social action on Tuesday.
Okay. Then we invite you to stay on screen for our virtual coffee hour coming up next. Thank you for being with us this morning and have a great week.